Alright, I'm at Yugioh, and I won this mat in the Star Deck side event, and we're going to do a deck profile for it, which may seem stupid at first, but I'm going to actually tell you how you can do better in this event if it comes down to it. It has Spirit of the Harp. I played mirror matches the entire thing. I 2-0'd my last opponent. There was nobody side decked. Nobody had sides for mirror. This card isn't that great, to be honest. I never really relied on that.
Just turn down.
This card is like a win condition. If you draw this early, you want to resolve it early because it means that you don't have to use your Xyz monsters early, and you should save your Xyz monsters until you need to make them. So this is really good if you open with it, and you should try and put it on the field as quickly as possible. Darkblade is obviously, he's a good 18 beater. That's good. Like, he's better than this. There's lots of ways to kill this thing because like Zubaba Knight is a thing, and you can recur him with cards. Gene Warp is obviously amazing. Zubaba Knight is really, 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 really good at like any point in the game, and you should never be afraid to like field Commander Raz for him, who is an amazing opening play because he lets you stack any warrior on your deck. And you should never be afraid to warrior returning live him. So this is a really powerful card. Ganbara Knight, I mean, most of these guys are just for like all the things that are like the really good cards I'd put over here. Those are all pretty good. These things are, they're just like fodder. You try to protect them in Xyz. Same thing with him. This is for making Gotchi. This is for trying to go into Granosaurus. You should always try and save your level 2s and 3s you should try and save for as long as you can. The level 4s are more expendable because there's more ways to make Utopia in the deck than there is to make Granosaurus and Gotchi. And you never want to Xyz summon early in any like sealed event where you have an extra deck. You never want to do it early. Speedbird, he gets you back 2 level 2s if he dies by combat. I never even got to use him for that. I actually would just poke somebody down with him for almost game. So he's not amazing. They go into the not amazing pile. Tension's there for making Gotchi. He's also a 1200 beater. You can use him for beating anything in the deck that's 1200, which most of it comes down to this guy, which I actually did do. Shine Knight is a level 4 for making level 4s. And then you have your floaters, like your actually real floaters, which are kind of like, if you open with them, you should try and set them or like summon them before you use any of your other monsters, because they don't have that many targets, a lot of them, and they don't have very insanely good targets. You should try and get a play going with them as quickly as you can. And it's good to put them in attack mode when your opponent has a tiny monster out and run into them, because Mirror Force is the game deciding card in the Star Deck sealed event. Blade Knight, I always searched off of this. We're doing a Star Deck profile. No, what do you want? No, I'm sorry. Field Commander Raz, I always used to search for Blade Knight. Always, because Blade Knight is amazing early game, and late game, after you've expended your resources, he becomes even better. This is a 2000 beater, which is, once you've gotten rid of their extra deck, and if they never had access to this, you can basically win off of just Blade Knight. So he goes in the really good pile. Also, Raz goes in the really good pile because he lets you set up any play you want. So this is like the bad stuff. These are the cards that you know are really good, and if you open with them, you're going to do pretty okay. Running Captain's just throwing Turbo Granosaurus, which is okay. It's not the best thing ever, though, so I'd put him over here. Majestic Mech Senku is broken. Like, my opponents, both rounds 2 and 3, got really, like, flustered because they realized turns in that I was +3 on them and +4 on them. And it's because of card interactions like this guy who, if he attacks your opponent's life points directly, you get to draw a card. And then you want to overlay with him because he gets sent to the graveyard during the end phase. So, like, if you draw this guy, you want to focus your play on setting him up. And your opponent would have to respond with Mirror Force or something, which would suck. Vengeful Shinobi's like Card Trooper. So he's kind of like he's like a trap. My opponents both summoned him against me, and it didn't end up helping them. It ended up hurting them because I swung into a Utopia, both of the people that did it to me. Trident Warrior is just a big beater. And he lets you summon level 3s from your hand, which is okay, but he's not, like, devastating. So these are, like, the monsters that can be devastating. These are the monsters that really put in a lot of work. I guess I'd put Trident here just because Darkblade's here, too, though. So there's that. Blustering Winds makes your monster 1,000. I advise only using it early game, because your opponent's more apt to use Mirror Force late game. even if they don't want to, they're more apt to use it, and you want to get value out of it as a 1-for-1. You don't want to use it on your monster, and then have your monster run into something bad. Makes your monster 1,000 until the end phase. Harmonic Waves is the only card in the deck that I think is bad. I used it once and I made Utopia with it, but it's the only card in the deck that I actually think is completely garbage. Like, all of these cards will actually put in work for you if you use them correctly. And trust me, winning this kind of thing, like a structure deck tournament, takes a lot of skill more than it does luck. And this is the only card that I would say that is dead in your hand. Xyz's Energy is game-breaking. My opponent put Utopia out 2 rounds in a row. My second round opponent, my third round opponent, both put Utopia out, or hitting me with Utopia. And I came back and responded with a Grenosaurus. And they didn't use any outs to stop getting my Grenosaurus, so I Xyz's Energy, which is detached to destroy a basic monster your opponent controls, and that won me the game. So this is a really good card. So this thing's terrible, these are okay. This is amazing. This is so good. Which is why you should hold on to your Xyz monsters for as long as you can. Try and get as much value out of these things before you go into these, because you don't want to waste these and then draw into this, or there's another card coming up which is the same situation. Mystical Space Typhoon, never, ever, 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 ever end like Typhoon. Don't do end phasing Typhoon. Blind MSTing is okay. There's some cards in this deck that MST is amazing out to, so it's best to save that for as long as you can. Fisher is obviously really good for killing Utopia and stuff. I actually never even got to see it. I never drew it. So, I beat all my opponents after they had, like, Xyz'd on me and stuff without ever using Fisher to kill Utopia. So that's really good. Swords of Revealing Light's okay. It combos with Zubaba Knight, and you can stall with it to set up this with Xyz something. So it's good. And there aren't many outs to it in the deck. So Warrior Turning Live is amazing. It's probably like the best card in this deck, in this entire starter deck, for beating the starter deck and using it to as best as you can, like holding on to it until it's the best time to use it. It won me 2 games. Banner of Courage is this is like a bad card. The guy I was playing against thought this was really good, and he was talking it up before the tournament started, saying that there wasn't many outs to it. But that's the thing, the outs to it, you don't have to use very often. You don't need to use your Typhoon much. So he tried to swing his Trident Warrior into my Trident Warrior, and I chained MST to make him minus. So, I mean, this is good, but every card in the deck has to be used, but don't use it for crashing. Don't use it for crashing, that's very risky, unless your opponent has no outs. Poison of the Old Man is like Gaga Cowboy for the deck. I gamed my final opponent to win the mat with this. So hold on to this as long as you can, obviously. But it's kind of stupid, actually. It's like a luck sack. Lucky Iron Axe makes your monster 500 attack points higher while it's equipped. And if your opponent destroys by a card effect, you get to draw 1 card. Which is okay. It's okay if you equip it to something that you know your opponent wants to kill. Like, if you know your opponent doesn't have, like, Mirror Force or something, or if you want to bait out your opponent's Mirror Force and you're already up on advantage, you can use this card to your advantage. So, I'd put that, like, over here. It's okay, like, Blustering Winds. Reinforced Space is, like, this weird damage step thing. All face-up Xyz monsters you control gain 300 attack for every material they have. And there's a lot of crashing that goes on in the battle pack, so obviously always use this for, like, defending. When your opponent tries to crash your Utopia or crash your Grenosaurus, it's okay. It's not very good. Xyz's effect won me a lot. My opponent was at 2,300, and he drew for his turn and set a card, and I was sitting on, like, something. I was sitting on, like, a level 4, and I had this set, like, the whole game, and I saved it. And I overlaid for Utopia and Xyz's effect and hit the last card he said, which was Mirror Force, and hit him for game. So this card, you should use it like an MST, and you should save it for when it's best. And it's not very punishable, which we'll get to like punishable cards in a second. But this is amazing. If you play in one of these tournaments, hold this card a lot. Dust Tornado, it's like the same exact thing as MST. Trapple is your only summon response removal, which is amazing, and it can hit a ton of cards in the deck. 7 Tools is broken, and I 7 Tools Drageki Break 3 times.
This is Solemn Judgment.
Solemn Judgment in this deck. This is Solemn Judgment.
This is Bound Trap Hole.
If you have this, you should save it for Raigeki Break or Mirror Force. That was the only things I Solemn Judgment the entire structure deck tournament, and it wins so much. It's so good. Raigeki Break's amazing, but Raigeki Break I saved until late game, or I had an opponent MST it, which was stupid of them, So you should try and get value out of this by having your opponent MST or using it to advance your game state. When your opponent's like sitting on a monster and they have like 1,300 life points left, they like set a monster, end their turn, and you can Raigeki break and then just kill them next turn. But use that, like, don't jump the gun with this. Don't use it when you don't need to. If this would be Solemn Judgment in the deck, I would say like this is like.
Dark hole? Do you have dark hole in this?
No, there's no dark hole in here.
So that's dark hole.
It's kind of like
A mini dark hole.
like maybe like a torrential or something. It's something that you can
This
use.
is a torrential.
It's something that you can use. That's
Above
like
travel.
yeah, it's something that you can use for a lot of value, but you can also misplay on it hugely, and then you can get punished for it like obscenely. Mirror Force is the best card in the entire deck, and also this is the best play in the entire deck. Just setting a million cards because your opponent assumes you have Mirror Force. The moment you put Utopia on the field, your opponent thinks you have Mirror Force, and they start putting him in defense position. And as long as you can draw an out to him or make your own Utopia, you'll be fine. Doesn't even need to be explained. I only won 2 games because of Mirror Force, so don't like hype up the Mirror Force that big. Like it, and also I got Mirror Force 3 times, so it's not going to just outright win you every game. Shield and Spear is this weird damage step thing that's okay. I only ever used it for protecting, like setting up a play on the next turn, or when my opponent had a Utopia, because I was beating him down with this, and he summoned Utopia and he attacked, and he activated his Shield and Spear, and I used it in response to kill his Utopia, so it's okay. It's definitely good. And like there's card interactions in here. Okay, and these are cards that are amazing. Like these things are so good. The Reinforced Truth is, both of them are mainly used for setting up Gachi. Because they both summon, this summons a level 1000 on attack, level 1000 or less monster from your graveyard. They get switched to defense position, destroy it and this card. If this card's destroyed, destroy that monster. And obviously it's for recurring Gachi. And Reinforce summons a level 2 warrior from your deck, which is good. Especially if they MST it. But most people that are good in these, like if you play against good players in sealed events, they won't go blind MST. But what happened was I had this face down, and I was swinging with a Utopia, and I got my opponent down to 1,300 life points, or something around there, and I activated this and summoned Key Warrior in attack position, and attacked directly with Key Warrior, and then I poisoned a Old Man in it for the game. Like I used this card for putting more damage on the board. That's all I ever used it for. I never even made Gachi once in the whole thing.
I don't think this deck is meant for Gachi. It's meant only for rank 3 and rank 4.
Yes.
Because in this deck, they don't have a lot of level 2. Only 3 of
there's
them.
only 2 level 2 monsters in
No,
the whole
3.
deck.
3. That's 3.
What's the other one?
It's not so great.
Where's the other level 2?
That's 2.
Him and Key.
And the ninja guy.
Oh yeah, the ninja's level 2 too, yeah. You could do that too. I never got to do that, but using Reinforce or using Reinforced Truth or what's it called? Or your Limit Reverse to bring back the ninja to gain some value, like to gain some advantage maybe because it's a card trigger. But I have to say that if you want to have fun at a YCS, doing these kind of events is good. It's lots of fun.
What?
What's up? Does it just have nothing in it? No. Maybe. And yeah, that's it. I'm gonna look at a binder.